She had his eyes. That's what destroyed him every time. Those same hazel eyes that had once looked at him with such love now stared back from his daughter's face, a constant reminder of everything he'd lost. James Turner turned away from 6-year-old Lily's questioning gaze, his heart shattering all over again as he mumbled another excuse about needing to check dinner. If you've ever felt the weight of grief making even the simplest acts of love nearly impossible, this story might just break your heart before putting it back together again. Like, subscribe, and join me on this journey of a father learning that sometimes looking away is the easiest thing to do, but looking forward is the only way to heal. The kitchen timer beeped insistently as James fumbled with the oven mitts. Macaroni and cheese again, Lily's favorite, though he doubted she even enjoyed it anymore. It had been 8 months since the accident. 8 months since he'd truly looked his daughter in the eyes. 8 months of existing rather than living. Daddy? Lily's small voice came from the doorway. Is dinner ready? Almost, sweetheart, James replied, keeping his eyes fixed on the steaming casserole dish. Go wash your hands. He heard her sigh, that little exhale of disappointment that had become the soundtrack to their lives. Her footsteps padded away, and James allowed himself to breathe again. Every interaction had become a careful dance of avoidance, his gaze landing on her forehead, her shoulder, the space just above her head, anywhere but those eyes that mirrored Sarah's so perfectly. The accident had been sudden, as they always are. A rainy night, a truck driver who'd fallen asleep at the wheel, and Sarah had been gone before the ambulance even arrived. James had been home with Lily, waiting for his wife to return from her late shift at the hospital. Instead, 2 police officers had appeared at his door with news that collapsed his entire world. In the immediate aftermath, he'd functioned on autopilot, arranging the funeral, accepting casseroles from neighbors, filling out paperwork, and trying to explain to Lily why mommy wasn't coming home. He'd been strong then, holding his daughter as she cried, wiping her tears, looking directly into those eyes that now caused him physical pain. It was only later, when the initial shock had worn off and the reality of their new life settled in, that he found himself unable to meet his daughter's gaze. The first time it happened, they'd been looking through photo albums. Lily had looked up at him, the afternoon light catching her eyes just so, and for a moment, it was Sarah staring back at him. He'd excused himself, locked himself in the bathroom, and sobbed until his throat was raw. After that, it became easier to just, not look. Not directly. Not for long. He told himself it was temporary, that he just needed time, but days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. James set the table mechanically, placing Lily's plastic cup of milk next to her favorite unicorn plate. He could hear the water running in the bathroom sink as she washed her hands. Such a good kid. Always following instructions, rarely complaining, trying so hard to be perfect, as if her good behavior might somehow fix what was broken in their home. All clean, Lily announced, returning to the kitchen and climbing onto her chair. James nodded, serving her a portion of mac and cheese before taking his own seat across from her. He focused on his plate as they ate in silence. Ms. Peterson says we're having a special day at school tomorrow, Lily ventured after a while. Oh? James responded, pushing his food around. It's Parents' Day. Everyone's mom or dad is coming to talk about their jobs. James felt his stomach tighten. He'd completely forgotten. The school had sent a notice home weeks ago, but it had gotten buried under bills and reminders and the general chaos of single parenthood. I told her you would come, Lily continued, her voice small but hopeful. I told everyone how you build big buildings. Tommy didn't believe me that you could make a skyscraper, but I said you could. James was an architectural engineer, or had been, before taking an extended leave of absence after Sarah's death. He'd been surviving on savings and the insurance payout, unable to face returning to the firm where he and Sarah had met 12 years earlier. Lily, I don't think, he began, but made the mistake of glancing up. Those eyes. Wide, hopeful, Sarah's eyes. He looked away quickly, but not before seeing the hope in them dim slightly. "I'll try," he amended, though they both knew what that meant. That night, after tucking Lily in with minimal eye contact, James collapsed onto the couch with a glass of whiskey. The television provided background noise as he stared blankly at the wall where family photos hung. Sarah's smile beamed from every frame, at their wedding, holding newborn Lily, the three of them at the beach just last summer. A lifetime ago. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister, Kate. Checking in. "How are you two doing?" James typed back a standard response, "We're fine. Thanks for asking." The reply came quickly, "That's what you always say. Talk to me, James." He sighed, considering ignoring it, but Kate had been his lifeline these past months, watching Lily when he couldn't get out of bed, bringing groceries, forcing him to shower and eat. She deserved more than platitudes. "I can't look at her, Kate. It hurts too much." There was a long pause before her response appeared, "She needs you to see her, James. Not Sarah. Her." The words hit him like a physical blow. He knew Kate was right, but knowing and doing were vastly different things. He finished his drink and headed to bed, though sleep, as usual, proved elusive. Morning came too quickly. James went through the motions of getting Lily ready for school, helping her pick out clothes, making breakfast, packing her lunch, all while maintaining his careful visual choreography. As he brushed her hair, he focused on the task rather than the reflection in the mirror before them. "Are you coming today?" Lily asked as he tied her shoes. "I'll try," he repeated, the same non-answer as the night before. He walked her to the bus stop at the end of their street, waved as she boarded, and then returned home to an empty house that seemed to echo with all the things he wasn't saying, wasn't doing, wasn't facing. The invitation for Parents' Day sat on the counter where he'd finally unearthed it from a pile of mail. 1:30 p.m. He had hours to decide, though in his heart, he already knew he wouldn't go. How could he stand in front of a classroom of children and parents, pretending everything was normal, when he couldn't even look at his own daughter? He spent the morning in a fog, alternating between self-loathing and grief. Around noon, his phone rang, Kate again. "Are you going to Parents' Day?" she asked without preamble. "I don't think I can," he admitted. "James," her voice was gentle but firm, "you need to be there. You don't understand." "No, you don't understand," Kate interrupted. "Do you know what Lily told me last week when I picked her up from school? She said she thinks you don't love her anymore because you never look at her. She thinks she did something wrong, James. She thinks she's the reason you're sad all the time." The words hit him like a physical blow. "That's not true," he whispered. "I know that, but she doesn't. She's 6, James. All she knows is that her mom is gone, and now her dad won't even look at her." James closed his eyes, feeling tears threaten. "It's not her fault. It's just, those eyes, Kate. They're exactly like Sarah's. Every time I see them, it's like losing her all over again." "I know," Kate's voice softened. "But you're losing Lily too, right now, in a different way. And she's still here, James. She's still here and she needs her dad to see her." After hanging up, James sat motionless for a long time. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, counting down the minutes until Parents' Day would begin. At 1:15, he stood up suddenly, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. The elementary school was only a 10-minute drive from their house. James parked haphazardly and rushed inside, following the handmade signs to Lily's classroom. Through the small window in the door, he could see parents seated on tiny chairs, children proudly standing beside them as someone's father described his job as a firefighter. James slipped inside quietly, scanning the room until he spotted Lily sitting alone in the back row, her shoulders slumped, eyes downcast. The sight of her there, small, lonely, trying to be brave, broke something open inside him. Ms. Peterson noticed him and smiled. "I think we have another parent who's joined us. Lily, look who's here." Lily's head snapped up, her eyes widening as she spotted him. James felt the familiar urge to look away, to protect himself from the pain of those hazel eyes, but this time, he forced himself to hold her gaze. And there it was, the pain, sharp and immediate. But there was something else too, something he'd been missing all these months. Yes, she had Sarah's eyes, but the joy lighting them up now was purely Lily. The way they crinkled at the corners when she smiled, that was his mother's trait, not Sarah's. The flecks of gold around the pupil that caught the light, those were unique to Lily alone. She ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. "You came. You really came. I wouldn't miss it, sweetheart," he managed, his voice thick with emotion. When it was their turn, James talked about designing buildings, showing simple blueprints he'd hastily printed before leaving the house. The children asked questions about the tallest building he'd ever worked on and whether he'd ever built a castle. Throughout it all, he kept finding his way back to Lily's eyes, each glance becoming a little easier than the last. After school, they went for ice cream, a special treat to celebrate. Sitting across from each other in the small booth, James finally did what he should have done months ago. He really looked at his daughter. "Lily," he said softly, "I need to tell you something important." She looked up from her chocolate sundae, a smudge of fudge on her cheek. Those eyes, attentive, wary, hopeful. "I'm sorry I haven't been a very good dad lately." "It's okay," she said automatically, the response of a child who had grown accustomed to making things easier for the adults around her. "No, it's not okay," James said firmly. "And I want to explain why, if that's all right." She nodded, setting down her spoon. "When Mommy died, I was very, very sad. And one of the things that made me saddest was that you have her eyes, exactly her eyes. The same color, the same shape. And every time I looked at you, I would see Mommy, and it would make my heart hurt so much that I thought it might break completely." Lily's lower lip trembled. "So you don't like looking at me?" "No, sweetheart, that's not it at all." James reached across the table to take her small hand. "I was afraid. I was afraid of how much it hurt. But today, when I came to your school and I really looked at you, I realized something." "What?" she whispered. "I realized that yes, you have Mommy's eyes. But they're your eyes too. And when I look at them, really look, I can see you in there. My Lily. And I've been missing you so much by not looking." Tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. "I thought you didn't love me anymore." The words were a knife to his heart. "Oh, Lily, no. I have never, not for one single second, stopped loving you. You're the most important person in my whole world. I just got lost in my sadness for a while." "I get sad about Mommy too," Lily admitted. "Sometimes I look in the mirror to see my eyes because they remind me of her." James felt his own tears coming now. "That's a beautiful way to remember her. And from now on, I promise I'm going to look at you, really look at you, every single day. Because you deserve to be seen, Lily. You deserve that and so much more." That night, as he tucked her into bed, James didn't look away. He brushed the hair from her forehead and gazed directly into those eyes that were Sarah's and Lily's and somehow, miraculously, contained all the love he'd been hiding from. "Daddy?" Lily asked sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. Will you tell me a story about when you and Mommy met?" For the first time in months, the request didn't fill him with dread. Instead, he smiled and settled beside her on the bed. "Well, I was working on designing a new hospital wing, and this beautiful doctor kept coming to the meetings with all these impossible demands about how the pediatric floor should be laid out." As Lily drifted off to sleep, James continued the story, letting himself remember Sarah not with paralyzing grief but with the love that had created their daughter. And when he finally kissed Lily's forehead and turned out the light, he knew something had shifted. The pain wasn't gone, it might never be completely gone, but it had transformed into something he could carry while still holding his daughter's hand. The following weeks weren't perfect. There were still difficult days, moments when grief ambushed him unexpectedly. But James no longer avoided Lily's gaze. Instead, he made a point of really seeing her every day, at breakfast, when he picked her up from school, as they rebuilt their life together one small moment at a time. He returned to work part-time, bringing home building plans for Lily to color. They established new traditions: Sunday morning pancakes, Friday movie nights, and a memory jar where they wrote down happy memories of Sarah to read together when they missed her most. 3 months after Parents' Day, James sat on a park bench watching Lily on the swings. Her laughter carried across the playground as she pumped her legs, going higher and higher. "Look at me, Daddy. Look how high I can go." "I see you, Lily," he called back, meaning it in every possible way. "I see you." As the sun caught her eyes, turning them to liquid amber, James felt the familiar pang, but now it came with something else: gratitude. Sarah lived on in those eyes, yes. But so did the future, bright and possible and right in front of him, if only he had the courage to look. Lily jumped from the swing at its highest point, soaring through the air for one heart-stopping moment before landing in a tumble of limbs and laughter. She picked herself up, brushed off her knees, and ran to him with all the resilience of childhood. "Did you see that? I flew." James opened his arms, and she crashed into them, her eyes, those beautiful, heartbreaking, life-affirming eyes, looking directly into his. "I saw you," he said, holding her close. "I'll always see you." And in that moment, as his daughter's arms wrapped around his neck and her eyes, Sarah's eyes, Lily's eyes, shone with love and trust, James understood that looking away had never protected his heart. It had only prevented it from healing. Because sometimes the very thing that breaks us is also what puts us back together again, stronger in the broken places, ready to face whatever comes next, as long as we have the courage to look.